always nice to share just a little bit of quick royal news. You know what it's like. There's certain things that add up during the day and you think, oh, I want to tell the chums about this. Now, here's the first thing that really, well, yeah, pin your ears back for this one, because for the very first time, you can now pick up notes with His Majesty the King, King Charles III, on our banknotes over here. Now, as you know, we're having a battle over here in the United Kingdom, as I'm sure you are in the rest of the world, about cash is king, all that sort of stuff. Quite literally, when you think about it, with His Majesty the King. What I find strange about these latest banknotes, or the plastic notes, you know, they're just not the same. They don't feel the same. They pop out of your pocket, and it almost feels a bit like Monopoly money. But it is good to see His Majesty the King on those banknotes. But the good news is that if you get hold of some of these, particularly certain serial numbers, in the future, they could be worth up to £10,000. So imagine if you get a £10 note or a £5 note, in no time at all, it could have escalated literally in value, which I think is a wonderful thing. And obviously, when you think about it, it's quite sad for many of us, because I only know money with, of course, our late, wonderful, beloved Queen Elizabeth II on it. You know, her image still is everywhere, even on those really cheap new banknotes, which I don't like. But nonetheless, it's still nice to see her face every single time you pay cash. But good luck, of course, to His Majesty the King in, once again, another historical moment in his reign. Now, another quick soundbite that I wanted to just mention is, of course, a couple of months back now, this terrible situation with, of course, the King's horses over and running through the streets of London. Terrible situation when they got spooked by certain builders at Buckingham Palace at the time. And as you know, a couple of soldiers were mildly injured. They're now back to recovery, or on the way to recovery, as are these two wonderful, beautiful beasts of horses. They're on their way to recovery, and apparently, according to the British Army, who I've spoken to directly, they said everything will be fine, and at some point they should be able to return to full duty. That's not a bad thing to know, is it? It's always nice to follow these stories up there, because the horrific scenes that we saw rushing through, of course, the centre of London with all the blood and everything like that, it was terrible to behold. And when you think about it, you know, the animals did have no idea where they were going. But do not forget, of course, the brave soldiers that were sprung off the top of their horses and, of course, sustained some injuries too. We wish them all the very best. Finally today, can I just point out, as ever, my favourite royal was in action, Her Royal Highness, the Princess Royal Princess Anne. And once again, you know, really leading the charge, as were all senior royals. Many of you will have seen this picture of Queen Camilla, becoming a little bit emotional at, of course, the commemorative service for all the D-Day veterans and all of those that gave so much of their wonderful time, life, experience, so that we could live in the world that we live in today. Truly, everybody should be grateful. You know, whatever these people think, they truly should be grateful. But of course, it was that wonderful poem recited by the Princess Royal that captured a lot of people. Once again, the stoicism and the delivery is just wonderful from the Princess Royal. I just wanted to touch on that, seemingly because, of course, a lot of people, you know, the lesser stories tend not to look at it. I kind of look at it and think, wow, as ever, leading incredibly well. And obviously, every senior member of the British monarchy is very close to their hearts. Let's not forget, like all families, the royal family did in fact have an association with all of those big events at 80 years ago. To the veterans that are still with us, we salute you all. And a huge thank you to all the brave boys and girls, men and women who did so much for us on that momentous day. Truly, we are grateful. New Sean in the very heart of London.